What made you decide to create Unplugged?
Oh, well, thanks for that question.
Somebody says you're welcome.
It says, what made
you decide to create Unplugged?
It kind of goes with what I said before. I didn't have a choice. I created Unplugged in one of my darkest hours. And y'all know my story, but I'll give it for the people who never heard it before. I went to college at Oral Roberts University, which is one of the the largest Christian schools in the country. And basketball was my dream, man. I wanted to play ball, but I'm 6'2", and I was like, after I keep spraining my ankle every now and then, I was like, man, this ain't for me. But I always had a passion for people, man. I just love people. If I was to show you my yearbook from 6th grade, people would be like, thank you for the advice, Josh, on me and Johnny's relationship. I went back and looked at my yearbooks the other day, and I said, man, I was touching people even when I was in 6th grade. I was like, man, what was I saying to them? But throughout time, when I got to Oral Roberts University, man, God was like, if you don't do blank, what's going to happen to them? Because I was wrestling with God at that time. I was like, God, man, I just want to make money, man. I just want to be successful, man. I was a very aggressive guy, man. I'm a very entrepreneurial, driven individual. I was kind of cutthroat when I was back in college. Man, if you was my competition, I ate you alive. I didn't want your stuff to succeed. I was like, man, you up here with me, I'm gonna make sure you ain't up here no more. I was that aggressive and that prideful because I came from a Nigerian culture, man. We very all about money. We're very aggressive. But God shook me in my dorm room one day and he said, man, if you don't do blank, what's gonna happen to them? If you don't do what I called you, what's gonna happen to those people? And so that same semester, God gave me an idea. I was working with an organization at Victory Christian Center in Tulsa. And they wanted to throw a concert. I said, man, I got a great idea. So we busted about 100 or so kids from Tulsa's north side. Tulsa's north side is one of the dangerous areas in America. Number 2 in gang violence. Number 3 is Flint, Detroit, and it's Tulsa. So it's one of the roughest areas in town. So we bust those kids utilizing the school bus system, bust them into this concert back in May 1st, 2008. I actually posted about it today on Instagram. As I was doing that concert, man, and I'm gonna make sure for the homework, I'm gonna show you the video where I actually spoke. When I walked off that stage, God said, you're gonna be doing this for the rest of your life. I looked in the audience, about 400 to 500 people there. We busting all these little kids. Kids are crying. I'm all emotional. I'm like, man, this is it. 6 months later, I do another concert, October 30th, 2010, which was actually 6 or 7 years from the day I launched Unplugged in Charlotte. We had this big vision release concert, all this stuff. It was good. After that day, I lost everything. God drifted me all the way from Tulsa to Charlotte. I was up in Charlotte at my mom's house crying. I was in my darkest hour. My identity was removed. Because imagine looking in the crowd, sea of people. It wasn't thousands, but it was enough for me. You know what I'm saying? And you see all this impact, and then churches wanted to book me to do a tour. So your boy's about to hit the first train of success. I was like, man, I'm about to go get T-shirts, wristbands. We're going to make some money. We're going to make it happen. And God said, man, you got too much pride in your heart for me to use. So the best way to mess up your pride is to humble you. God humbled me in ways I never imagined. All my clothes was in Tulsa. I didn't have enough to pack my bags. I remember I had a conversation with the girl that I was supposed to marry and at that time, and we were supposed to take the car to Atlanta, and I was supposed to fly from Atlanta to Charlotte. Girl breaks over me and says, you got to find your own way home. And I had no money. And so I'm sitting there like, God, how am I going to get back to Charlotte? I go in my apartment, my lights are off. The food in the refrigerator was molded. I was sleeping in my homeboy Adam's room illegally. My beard was growing. I only ate 1 meal a day because I was sneaking. A lady at the lunch at the door at the cafeteria, she always let me in. But everybody was snitching. Like, Josh, I'm like, man, y'all ain't gonna help your boy. Wasn't it not me that brought these two? But anyway, I was so caught in pride then. You see, that's how pride gets you when you're low and when you're high. But not on drugs. But what I'm saying is, I only had 1 meal a day, man. I got pictures. If you saw my first videos with Unplugged, I was skinny. I had this big old head. My arms were small. My body was small. My neck was small. People were like, boy, you sick? I was like, man, I went through a crisis, man. And then I was online watching Lauryn Hill Unplugged. And the word Unplugged stuck up off the screen. And all of a sudden, I got a notebook beside me. Help people unplug from the world and plug into Christ. Whatever you plugged into becomes your source. That source fills you fill with it. He says, tell the people that I'm their source. I used to take my mom to work. And when I got back to Charlotte, I used to take my mom to work. And I had a video recorder. When I dropped her off, I had a video recorder. As I was driving home, I was preaching. I don't know what I was doing. But I had no choice because everything was stripped. All I could do was serve him. All I could do was preach. And I can show you these messages. I'm going to show you all this in email so you won't think I'm lying. So I'm driving, audio recording, and I'm like, who is this talking? Because I used to be the same guy that stuttered all the time and all that kind of stuff. And then as I continue to go, I went from recording video, God said, start video, do a video. And I said, man, I don't want people to see this head, I'm skinny. You know what I'm saying? But I started doing video after video. And when I started seeing people watching in Sweden and the Netherlands and New Zealand and Australia, and I began to see people watching from Birmingham and Montgomery and Texas, I said, man, these people are crying off of what I'm saying? I said, God, if I don't do this, what's going to happen to them? And Unplugged was birthed at a place of darkness and a place of passion. And I'm thankful that God humbled me. Your greatest rewards comes after you're humbled. And don't get upset when God prunes you. Don't get upset when God begins to strip things out your life. Because when he begins to strip it out of your life, he's positioning you with a heart that will make sure it speaks what only he says. So Unplugged was started back in 2009, 2010, October 30th for the Bible study. It was me and my sisters in the room, and nobody showed up for weeks. But I kept putting that little webcam right there. I said, I want to record this. Let me put, y'all two sisters, y'all sit there so they can think there's some people. I started preaching. I'm going to show you those videos too. And next thing you know, it started growing. We was in 24/7. And yeah, we've been in 4 different places. Yeah, God is moving. But I'm telling you, you haven't watched the end of it. Because I'm thankful for where God has brought me from, but I'm telling you the future is bright. When you humble yourself under God's mighty hand, in due season you'll be exalted. But you won't be exalted with your agenda. You'll be exalted with his. So I hope my story encouraged you. Even in the midst of quitting, even in the midst of giving up, keep pushing. Because when I get those messages from people watching in British Columbia, like the message I got 2 weeks ago, and people watching from Barbados, and people watching all over the world, I gotta keep going. And I can't go with my agenda, I gotta go with his. So let's get together, let's stand up. We have one more question? We had 2 more? That was it? Let's get up for Howard. Let's get in our prayer circle, man, so we can get you guys home.